All right, we're going to talk a little bit again about maintaining a proper mindset with the new year. This is the fourth edition, and at this point, you've probably been going through it for a couple weeks. If you're like 96% of Americans, you've probably fallen off track a little bit. You're not following the same path you wanted to. But as we've talked about this the last couple of weeks, you're going to do something different this year. This is the one you're going to make a difference. It might be getting your body right. It might be getting your diet correct or setting a better mindset and making changes that make a difference in your life. And that's not like flipping a switch on a light. Things don't just go on or off. Sometimes the motivation and excitement behind this does work like a light switch. So it's really easy to create a lot of hype and get back in the flow right away. But then real life happens, and invariably something takes your best plans and decisions and hope and derails the entire thing. So here's what you do this year to make a difference. This year, you're going to simply and very uneventfully get back on track and just continue your journey. Forget the false hype, forget the rah-rah. Now, I'm a big believer in turning setbacks into comebacks, but this year, the new year, you're gonna approach it as if it wasn't even a setback at all. It was just a small little detour, a couple of missed days of a workout, or maybe the holiday expenses caught up to you so you couldn't make the payments you needed. It doesn't matter what happened. Get back on track and get back in the direction. Now, a few years ago, I wrote a graduation speech for a bunch of high school kids. They just happened to graduate in the middle of a global pandemic. You remember it. Nothing was working. What I told them was the biggest fallacy in everything I had ever learned in my life is the choices that we make are supposed to lead us in a straight direction and on a direct path. The analogy I use for my high school kids, it fits everyone, especially you, especially right now. I feel like our life's journeys are much more like a map than a straight timeline from a history book. Imagine a map like if we were going to travel from Corpus Christi, Texas to Seattle, Washington. You can find roads, interstates, etc. that would make this a rather direct line. But even that choice alone, there's probably a dozen or more ways depending on your preferences, your decisions, or your circumstances. And that's straight. And straight lines are fast, but they're also boring. The straight, perfect path is no fun. And this is life. On my trip, I want to make a slight detour because I want to get the best tortillas in the world. They're right there in Pecos, Texas. So I'm going to head that way and do it. And since I'm over that way, I also want to jump in the Blue Hole right over there in eastern New Mexico. From there, I might head a little bit west because Vegas. And let's say in Vegas, I have a setback. I wouldn't be the first person to do so. Maybe I'm there for a week because in Vegas, stuff happens. Here's the thing that gets lost. My trip isn't over. All I have to do is get back on the road and head northwest. That's it. And I think you get where this is going. The analogy is built to be spelled out very easily for you. The destination that you want, the thing that made you set the stage for where you want to be and where you want to go, is still there. It hasn't moved at all. Your path is not a direct line there. It looks more like a crazy EKG. And I think the map is a perfect analogy because sometimes you're going to go wrong directions. Sometimes you might have to go backwards or take a detour, or maybe you have to drive a different direction for a while to avoid a storm or simply because you want to see the mountains. But the destination is still there. All you have to do is right the ship and get back on the road and head that way. This works for you in your life. So very appropriately, the fourth installment of How to Create a Better You this year fits perfectly with ideas that aren't over just because they've been derailed. Now, I hope this finds you in a good place and it gives you the inspiration to get back on track for what you're wanting to do. You don't have to keep track of it this year. You don't have to do it at the same speed as your friends. This is your journey. And this time, take some sidebars and some scenic detours when you need to. It's always fine, but just get back on the road. Don't quit or turn around because you made a turn. The trip, well, that's where the magic happens anyway.